Hello again, everyone. I'm Tom Dirato. Welcome to the Eddie Sutton Show. It was a great week for 9th-ranked Oklahoma State. The Cowboys blistered Nebraska by 39 at home and then won a huge Big Monday road game at Missouri to set up Saturday afternoon's Big 12 title battle in Ames. As usual, we'll have all the highlights for you, and as you can imagine, there were a lot to choose from. We also conclude our two-part one-on-one with Desmond Mason. You'll hear how Mason's life on and off the court has settled down over the last year or so. And we'll look ahead to that long-awaited Oklahoma State-Iowa State matchup in Hilton Coliseum. So you stay with us. We're back after this opening timeout.
The Eddie Sutton Show is...
Well, welcome back to the show. We talked about the great week the Cowboys had. We've yet to play that perfect game, but I think it's obvious we're playing about as well as we have all year.
Well, our defense has been excellent, and when you shoot over 50%, as we did against Nebraska and Missouri, then you're going to play pretty well. Out-rebounded both ball clubs. I think the only flaw we had was in our game at Missouri when we had the sizable lead. We didn't play quite as smart down the stretch as we should have, and we turned the ball over too many times. Well,
we were home to start this nice week that the Cowboys had against Nebraska, and you're going to see early on, we jumped on the Huskers and never let them up. Look at that. That's the old statue out front of Gallagher-Iba. Nice crowd to welcome the Cowboys back.
Well, we had just come off our third loss down at Austin, and I was certainly happy to get back in Gallagher-Iba, and I think the team was, and the fans certainly gave us a warm welcome. And as you mentioned, we jumped on Nebraska early, and they just never were in the ball game. And again, it was excellent defense like that allowed us to go down in transition, get some easy baskets. Look at that. Great feed by Doug off to Desmond, and he dunked it home.
You know, I've done a little bit of work on another tape that we do, and you're going to see the replay here on the slam down. But by and large, whether at home or on the road, we've been able to get off to good starts this year.
Well, we have for the most part. I think that's always important, whether you're at home or on the road, but it's especially important on the road, and we'll hope when we go to Ames Saturday afternoon we'll be able to do that, although it didn't help Texas much the other night. That's an amazing game. Texas had them down, I think, 14 or 15, and the Cyclones fought back. And I think for a long time, people thought Iowa State wasn't for real, but they are.
There was Alex showing a little bit more movement in this game than he has in a while.
Well, Alex is feeling much better physically, and I think as a result, he's playing much better basketball for us.
Must be that acupuncture.
Well, I think that really did help him.
And there's a nice drive by Doug right there. You could see Cowboys in control of this one quite early.
Well, I was really pleased that Brian played as well as he did. His high school coach was in attendance from Michigan, and Brian had 22 points and 12 rebounds, and I don't know how many double-doubles he's had this year, but he's
7.
Had a lot of them.
Little duck under right there.
That was a nice play by Frederick.
Well, they played a zone almost exclusively, they being Nebraska. And after about the first 4 minutes or so, I think you called a timeout somewhere in that area. And after that, the movement inside, outside the zone was really good.
Well, it was good passing, good penetration by the dribble, good ball movement, getting the ball inside, making the defense converge, and then kicking it back out for the open perimeter shot. Glendon Alexander had 18 points. He hit 6 out of 10 from beyond the arc. Joe had 10 points. Desmond didn't have a great game offensively. He only had 10, but he did a lot of other things well.
And there's Glendon knocking down one. And you just saw that shot of yourself and Jimmy watching the game. And, of course, Jimmy Williams did the scouting report, having been at Nebraska the last 7 years.
Well, he pretty well had them pegged. And
yeah.
It was an excellent scouting report. And Kyle Keller had the scouting report on Missouri, and he, too, did an outstanding job. I think our assistant coaches probably spend more time in putting together scouting reports than anyone in the country, and as a result, I think our players really have a book on the team we're playing before the game ever begins.
Yeah, while we're watching these highlights here, just quickly, you might relate to our fans. A lot of tape watching goes into those scouting reports.
Well, it's like Sean's got Iowa State this week, and I think he's already looked at 7 or 8 films, and then he will break those down and we'll make a highlight film to show the team. And I would think that probably they put in at least 20 to 25 hours just getting prepared for one ball club.
And that was evident. You're going to see in that game coming up as the Cowboys close this one out here against Nebraska, win it by 39, one of the biggest margins they've had in this series. You're going to see the Missouri game coming up, and you talked about the scouting report. As you went back and looked at the tape, it seemed like we took Missouri out of just about everything they wanted to run.
Well, Missouri is one of the most talented young teams, I think, in college basketball, and Quinn has certainly done a nice job with his ball club, but they depend so much on set plays to get their three-point shooters open, or on dribble penetration, forcing a help situation where then you kick the ball off to the open man. And we really defended them well for about 35 minutes. And in the last 5 minutes, we got a little lazy in. And you have to give the other ball club credit. They hit some big shots.
We're going to see a big lead again. Took that crowd at the Hearnes Center out of it up at Missouri. Cowboys came out, jumped on them, and I believe we'll find out on this tape right here that Missouri had 1 point over the first 5 or 6 minutes of the game.
Defense was excellent. We did jump out on them, and then they fought back, and we hit a three-pointer by Desmond just before the buzzer at halftime, and we forged a 5-point lead. And then in the beginning of the second half, we really jumped ahead of them. And as I mentioned earlier, we got up 20 points on them. Great hustle play by both ball clubs there. Very tough physical game. And of course, when you get this late in the year in conference play, it seems like to me if you're playing for the championship, those games just become much more intense than you might have seen earlier in the year.
Well, what else is new? How many trips we've made to Columbia over the years, you come back saying, very physical. Well, there's a physical slam right there.
Nice play by Montonati on a transition basket. Good defensive play by Doug. Nice assist off to Joe Adkins.
There's one of Doug's 12 assists against the Tigers. And there you see we're 5 minutes into the game. Cowboys with an 8-1 lead before Parker hit the three.
Good backdoor play. They overplay. They play great man defense, and we were able to get behind their defense a couple times.
You mentioned Quinn Snyder. He's a darn good young coach, but it just didn't seem right. It didn't seem the same way looking over on that bench and not seeing Norm storming up and down the court.
Well, I agree with you. It's a little strange, but I think Missouri made a good decision in hiring Quinn, but I do miss Norm. He was a lot of fun to compete with, and certainly a great friend of mine. There's what I like to see more of what Desmond's got, where he really shoots the tray, and so he drives hard to the basket. Sometimes he just needs to pull up and shoot that mid-range jumper like he did that last time.
Or
this is just before halftime. Brian gets a vicious elbow right there, right to the Adam's apple, and goes down. And we really thought he was seriously hurt, but after a few minutes, he was able to get to his feet and get to the dressing room, and came back second half, played outstanding ball game. Turned
out to be at least a momentum builder going into the half as Desmond hit that three, and the Cowboys came out and didn't let up in the second half.
Anytime you hit a basket just before halftime, I think it's a psychological play, and it works both ways. Great shot there by Desmond.
There's a three-point shot here.
They took 32 attempts from beyond the arc. That's a lot of threes. They hit 10 of them, and most of those came late.
And they hit about 4 or 5 of those in the last couple of minutes, so basically the Cowboys did a nice job of shooting the threes of their own.
Well, Desmond had a great game, 25 points and 9 rebounds. Brian had 16 and 11 rebounds, another double-double. Glendon had 12. Joe had 21, so our starters really performed well. There's a great tray by Glendon.
Well, you can see the Cowboys are going to have themselves a 20-point lead with about 7 minutes left, and everybody in the Hearnes Center, a good many of them, thought the game was over, but it got a little bit more interesting down the stretch.
It's not over till it's over, especially since the three-point shot has come into being. And you know, right there, like Growers is the smallest player on the court, and we don't do a good job on the defensive boards, even though we out-rebounded them 40-30. And then we got careless with the ball, made some foolish turnovers, and our defense wasn't quite as good. See, we don't have weak side help there. Joe gets beat on dribble penetration, and we don't support from the help side. There it's a good pass. Somebody's going to press you and put their defense out to 94 feet. You got to attack that press. Too often teams are just content to get the ball across the midcourt line. And
you saw the first incidents of something thrown on the court just then, and it's going to come back to haunt Missouri here in a little bit.
Well, we're not strong enough with the ball there, and they strip us, and you can see that look on my face. I'm not really pleased. Great pass. If they're going to overplay as much as Missouri is doing, sometimes you have to throw that ball long.
Deep feeders have been good to us over the years, haven't they?
Yes, they have.
Nice block by Weber.
Yeah, Alex hadn't blocked too many shots, but that was certainly a nice one.
Now we're going to see the game turn around for the final time here as Joe hits free throw number
the
one.
The official had come over and warned the fans not to throw anything else on the floor, and there you saw something coming out of the fans on the baseline, and the official comes over, Ted Hillary, and calls a technical. I don't think that it really had an impact on the game. I think the game was over, but certainly by hitting the 2 free throws and getting the ball out of bounds, that really put the icing on the cake.
There you are, exchanging greetings. And coming out of this game, we've had a couple of days now. Desmond was limping and certainly was hurting in the latter stages of this game. How is that injury?
Well, he took a severe blow to his thigh, and it certainly was a hard hit. And if we had to play the last couple of days, he couldn't have played. But he'll be in that game Saturday afternoon.
Okay, 11-2. Iowa State's now 11-2. We're going to talk about this matchup, but 8 wins on the road this year. That's something special about this club.
Well, you told me that a Cowboy team hadn't won that many on the road since
well, don't give it up. Oh, see, you just gave up one of our notebook items. But we'll visit that again. See, I can't ever count on you to stay with the script. But anyway, the Cowboys at 11-2. We're going to talk about that matchup in Ames. But first, remember, we're going to conclude our one-on-one interview with Desmond Mason. That all comes up after this timeout.
There's always a way.
Well, last week you heard Desmond Mason relive some of the painful moments he experienced growing up in Waxahachie, Texas. And like most stories, this one has a happy ending. Mason and his dad are closer than ever, and Desmond appears to be at peace with himself both on and off the court. This week we conclude our one-on-one with Desmond Mason, who literally has come a long way in a short period of time. You've got yourself straightened away. Your dad obviously has, and you're probably closer now than you ever have been.
Yeah, you know, like I said, him coming back was really hard, but I was so happy to see him. You know, I got to see him once in that 2 years, and you know, he sent letters and we wrote back and forth. But I saw him I went to see him, visit him one time, and I didn't want to go back because I just didn't want to see him like that. And you know, it did turn out to be a happy ending because I mean, he came home and I went through a lot of rough times with him, but you know, I wouldn't take back any of that either.
A lot of people see you in interviews, see you after a game, see the public person, the public Desmond Mason, but you're really a private person. How have you handled all this?
You know, I'm so happy to be in this situation. I'm just humble about it all. I mean, I'm always happy to sign an autograph for a little kid because I can remember when I was that little kid and I didn't have the opportunities. You know, kids these days, or you know, the little kids you see at the games, you know, they had the opportunity to come to games and see, you know, people they look up to and see role models. And you know, my dad was my role model when I was young, but you know, some of the time he was gone, and so I didn't really have one. I know the kids. They look at me and you know, I can just look at kids sometime and I can see that they do some of the stuff that I do. I mean, you know, just out there messing around, wearing my jersey and stuff like that. I mean, you know, I have to, you know, hold myself right in public and do good things and be a positive person. But the main thing is that I never had a chance to do, you know, I never had a chance to go to a college basketball game or go to an NBA basketball game or have a role model that played the sport really. I mean, professionally, everybody had one, but, you know, to go to a college game and see somebody in person. So I'm just humbled by it all, just to be in this situation and you know, I just have a lot of fun doing it. I've been doing art for a really long time. I mean, since the times, you know, you're back as a little kid just kind of doodling and messing around, and then I got into junior high and started doing like, you know, woodwork and drawing, and once I got in high school, I got into ceramics and painting and charcoal and stuff like that. So, you know, when I got in college, I was kind of like, well, you know, I think I want to stick with it because, I mean, I can draw pretty well and I like doing it, and, you know, it's not the fact that I can do it well. The main thing about me drawing is that it relaxes me. And it's something just to get away from basketball, get away from the pressures of school and class work, and just go out and, you know, just draw stuff, and it just makes you feel well. With studio art, for one, you could the main thing you do is you can open your own studio, obviously, and go to some art shows around the country. But another thing is you can go into teaching, and then you can go back into school again and get into graphic design, which is not far away. A few more classes, and then you pretty much major in graphic design, a couple computer classes. And with graphic design right now, the movie industry is really big, and you got guys sitting behind a computer or drawing on paper, drawing little bugs or the movie ants, and just making millions of dollars for drawing stuff like that. I mean, that's not a bad living right there.
Can you keep yourself from thinking about the NBA?
I'm trying to take the same attitude I took when I decided to sign coming out of high school, is to put my team first, and college or picking a school to go to was second. And that's the same thing I'm doing with the NBA right now. I mean, if I continue to play well and I follow my dreams and pray to God every night that I stay healthy, then I have a great chance to play in the NBA. Coach tells me that every day, and he told me when I started school here that if I listen to him and do all the right things and work hard, then I would have that chance. But right now, my team comes first. I want to do well. I'm tired of losing in the second round. I want to go a little further and make my way to Indianapolis and just keep it rolling. I think the main thing I would take is just learn to mature and grow up and be a man, because I wasn't a man when I got here. I thought I was a man, but I wasn't a man, and I've learned a lot. I mean, I've been through a lot, and it's been hard. The 3 years, this is my last year, but the 3 years before this, I had some problems. I mean, I had just stress and dealing with things back home and trying to keep things back home straight the best I could, and then trying to keep things up here straight, and trying to pass all my hours and trying to graduate, and then switching majors, and then coach and basketball, and everything was so hard and it was bogging me down, and I just couldn't focus my first 2 years here. But after that, I kind of thought, I'm like, it's not as bad as it looks. You've been through worse, and I have been through worse, and now I just look at it that way. I'm like, there's always a way out if you do the right thing, and I just learned to grow up and become a man and be responsible, and that is probably the sole thing that I take away from here, being proud of myself that I've done that.
You've come a long way since that first interview we ever did here, too.
A very long way.
Continued success. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, T.
Great piece, Tom. He has matured. All of the people can see as a basketball player, but they don't have the opportunity that the coaching staff and you to see how he's matured as a person. And oftentimes we hear so many critical things about competitive athletics, but people like Desmond and all the young men that I've had, there have been so many of them, probably their lives were changed by the opportunity to be in a system where you try to teach them other things besides just basketball skills, discipline, dedication, things like that, and he certainly has bought into it. Now, there were some times when he wasn't quite ready to listen, but he does listen now, and I think he realizes the love that all of us have for him, and as a result, he really has grown up, and I guess that's what keeps me in coaching, because I've enjoyed so much the opportunity to help young people like him.
Yeah, I would think that as far as a coach is concerned, that's the greatest measure of satisfaction to see a youngster as a freshman and all the way as a graduating senior. We've got the notebook, we've got the question of the week, and we've got a look at Oklahoma State and Iowa State. You stay with us.
CJ, I started here at Oklahoma A&M in 1954. They changed the name to Oklahoma State University in 1957, so on my diploma it says Oklahoma State University.
Well, that's good. Now let's get to our notebook. You kind of tease one of the items on the notebook, but we'll start from the top. And the first item we call cutting back. It has to do with perhaps a trend of maybe cutting back on the automatic qualifiers for the NCAA tournament?
Well, I think the tournament committee is talking about having a play-in game. I'm not really in favor of that. I think that the way the NCAA is structured now is really good. It gives the little teams a chance to compete with the big guys.
All right, winning in Kansas City at the Big 12 postseason tournament, does it really help your NCAA seeding?
I think it can help, but it also can hurt. But for the most part, I think when you get to Kansas City, the tournament committee pretty much has you where they were going to place as far as seeding.
Well, here's the item that you previewed. With Road Tough, 8-2 on the year on the road. Last time the school won 8 road games, you were playing.
And that was a long time ago, but that is true. It seems impossible, but Iowa State, Saturday afternoon, 3 o'clock, be a tough game.
It will be a tough game, and I tell you what, we need to have that one. But what a big season to be with a win in Hilton Coliseum where we won 3 of the last 4. That's all the time we have for this week's show. For Eddie Sutton, our entire crew here at Educational Television Services, Tom Dirato. Goodbye, everybody.
The Eddie Sutton Show has been